and he was maybe 25 or something, and he came to talk to me after the talk and said, look, Michael, I really like what you do. I'll do anything, make anything you want. We just want to make anything. And I thought, okay, this is just like freaking me out. So I put his card in my pocket, and I don't wear jackets very often. And about 6 months later, I put a jacket on, and I put my hand in my pocket, and his card was in there. And I'd had this idea because we'd been making all these folded bits of paper, saying, why don't we just try and make something bigger? So I sent him a drawing for this, which something like this is about 60,000 euros to make. And he said, okay, we'll make it. And I thought, oh, this is even weirder, what's the catch? So he made it, delivered it to the studio, so I called my friend who's got a pub, and there's no design galleries in Hong Kong still. So this place was just opening, it was a place called The Pawn, and said, look, it's Art Week, can I build this thing in your pub? And we'll invite some people. So I made this, which is really, I like to call it a screen divider, because everything I do has to have a function. I'm not an artist. I like to, these are all experiments. So we made this, and it then started to build a relationship. And I asked, why did you do this? He said, oh, staff training. Well, what? Staff training? So he was actually training his staff by working with a designer to improve the quality of the way they were working. And he said, what else do you want to do? And, well, you know, that's a foolish thing to say to me. But what it did was, okay, I started introducing the processes to other companies. So then I started designing things using these techniques, which is a lot of anodized things. And before I forget, what is great about working in metal in China, I was just talking about it before, is that it's quite a holistic experience, because I work a lot with factories in China, and actually a lot of that material comes from Australia, so it's not all bad. Anyway, I learned how to extrude materials and bend metals. I learned how to communicate with factories. They started to trust me, and then it's suddenly everything started to line up. Hong Kong's, you know, I went to Hong Kong because I was sitting in the Peninsula Hotel in TST, and it was night time, and I was looking at the big lights and Panasonic, and I thought, wow, this is amazing. If you're in a city with this many wealthy bankers, and you've got Shenzhen just behind you, this must be the best place in the world to design. How can you can have that much investment and that much productivity, and there's no designers there. But I immediately understood by accident, really, that this must be a great place, because there's a lot of third-generation kids coming back from Chicago universities who don't want to make screw tips for aerials in Daddy's factory. They want to do something more dynamic. So I started, I was fortunate when I landed in Hong Kong, I got loads of PR, so you've always got to say thank you to journalists, they really do change a lot. You know, I had a dog I found in the markets in Taiwan, brought it over and got a lot of PR, and so all of these guys started crawling out of the woodwork. This, believe it or not, was the world's first ever Bluetooth rechargeable speaker, okay? It was before any other company had invested in anything like that. I could only do this because in the various parts of the location of Hong Kong, I had the Bluetooth company, the sound engineers, the battery company, and the investment. So we made this. We only actually, it was a crazy project. We did all of the tooling, and we made it cost millions, over €1 million to develop this project, and we made 60 units. We made 20 of each in different colours, and we sold them in Colette in Paris, and that was it. And then that was the project sold out, and it was a PR communication project to try and build the brand. So anyway, capitalising on that, this is not the full product. This is something you can buy in Australia, actually. You can see the influence starting to happen. I've never used honeycomb before, but I'm going to show you a bit of process. But actually, being in Asia, I started to develop all of these sort of traits, you know, of being in the area. But this, for example, this was my friend John, and he'd been manufacturing barbecues for 10, 15 years, and every year he'd been going to Frankfurt Fair, selling barbecues, and we met in the pub, in Hollywood Road, and he said, Michael, please, I can't go to another trade fair selling barbecues. I've got to do something else. It's so miserable standing at a trade fair for 2 weeks selling barbecues. So what we did is, I'd just done that project. So I said, well, we could do a really economical version. So I knew all of the manufacturers for this. My aluminium company made the fronts. My friend who made the first watch, the PXR5, did the electronic packaging in his factory. And then we developed this. So this product was born over a few beers in Hollywood Road in Hong Kong. This is, of course, not the highest selling product. It's a company called Native Union, and they make a lot of retro handsets. But that company in Hong Kong, they went from 0 to $50 million in under 4 years. It just went bang like that. And that came just out of, I mean, you know, I wish that I had that. You know, now my friend John has it, and he's just bought a small island in off Sri Lanka. Unbelievable, but you know, you get what you work for, don't you? I just gave him the ideas. Anyway, and then we did a series. I've got to be a bit careful about what I keep. Sorry. Yeah, I keep getting this wrong. So we did a whole series of things using the same factories. So this was a waterproof speaker that we developed. For outdoors, which was it connected to the other systems. And then we did more. This is a headphone, again, manufactured. I don't have this is the side view of it. But what I'm getting towards is that all of the manufacturing and all of the graphics, because I'm a very visual person, I failed maths 5 times at school, English 4 times. I was just looking at my old exam certificates, and it's all U, 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 E, 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 and I was thinking, God, I must have been really out of focus. But I've realised, it took me long, they didn't understand things like dyslexia and stuff at school then. It was just like hammer on the knuckle. All I could do was draw. So for me, I'm just a very visual person, and that's how I think. So all of these things started to come into the work that I was doing. This was the world's first, I hate to say it's not the world's first, but it is, pair of cornstarch recyclable earbuds. So this was another, I had a contract with this electronics company developing them for a few years. So what we realized, this is a very clever product in the sense that it really works. The shape of the end helps push the sound, and cornstarch is in fact a really brittle plastic. So the sound quality is even better than an oil-based plastic. And when we put this onto the market, it sold like crazy, because what we found out was the guys who actually buy this stuff respond to what you're doing. They really do care. A whole generation's gone around, and if it's recyclable, they actually would buy it. There's a number of other things, because you know, there's a lot of Hong Kong companies who were making gifts, and they asked me to make key products for them. So they knew I had, you know, help with distribution or contacts in New York or blah blah blah, good media profile. So, but my objective, again, going back to watches, I've designed a lot of watches for these guys. I really loathe most watches, so my idea was really to strip this back and find a new way of using the movement. But when we designed this watch, we were aware the brief from the CEO of the company, we knew that there was a world recession coming. So the brief for this watch was actually to design a watch that looked like it cost $400 US, but we're going to sell it for $120 US. So we did a lot of engineering, a lot of investment in time on textures and surfaces. I could only do that really because of my knowledge of the bicycle factories, to design a watch that looks expensive, but actually you could buy on cut wages. So this has become very much an icon for them, and so on. So, you know, I want to get to a certain point. We did carbon fiber chairs. This is actually based on a wooden chair called the Cohen chair. Just over the border, they're making parts for Ferraris and slugger baseball bats, so we started experimenting in carbon. So I just got to give you a quick word interlude for recycling, one little project, and then move on. This seems to be around, I don't know how long ago, 14 years ago maybe, when furniture was exported to the United States, there was a beetle in a container, and it went from China and ended up killing the ash population. So there's a company called Emeco, and Greg, who's an incredible man, to actually work for this guy, you have to come up with I guess, an ethereal way of the product existing. It must exist because it should exist. So we came up with a project because of all of the, the volume of recycled aluminium in the USA. We put these two concepts together and came up with this chair. It's a very modest chair, but it's very serious in the sense that we bought all of the ash, which had been dyed, killed by the beetles, used all of the recycled aluminium, and then found we used an Amish factory in Lancaster to make the wood, which keeps them alive. So what we actually had was a full cycle chair product, which had a reason to exist. And again, to make this sort of metal panel, you may think it's cold to sit on aluminium, but if you use it at room temperature, it's providing you're not in the Antarctic, you're fine. So we made this as so every product is not just designed for the sake of design, it's designed for a reason. So I just wanted to sort of put that in there, so you understood a little bit more about, we don't just design shapes, everything has a reason. So I'm going to go on to this, which has had a, obviously my mathematics is not a big subject for me, but I understand visually the importance of parabolic shapes, and actually the history of Chinese architecture, and the really strong link between the mathematics of this type of thing and architectural construction before things stopped developing in China. So this is just a shape from the internet, but really it inspired a whole load of things. So I just wanted to show you, what happened. All the old ladies in China are dying slowly but surely, and they buy glass dragons, ink paintings, things like that. The problem is that the younger generation prefer Dave Beckham or Bruce Lee or ping pong. So there's a whole cultural thing going on where this market of the local factories is starting to die, who are making glass dragons and all of this opalescent sort of glass you see. So one of them came to me because I've been working in China and I understood the international market. How could we create an object that still had the integrity of China but appealed to a new generation? So I just wanted to show you quickly how we process this information based on this. I don't have a picture of the architecture I was going to do. So we slowly sort of build these things up because we want to keep the integrity of the object. It has to have a real life, and we start to create things in 3D, and then we start to cut things up and look for objects. Now, we don't just look for objects, we're trying to use the ingredients we've got to make things in 3D, so the factory can make things, and then we start to abstract things into objects, and then start to make these sort of products, and then we design hundreds of things for them, and then we start to make things like this. So this is a glass bowl, and this became the sort of product line that we started to develop, various different shapes. And this was to try and help that company make a shift to a design background. This is terrible photography, but this became the essence of developing other things, because it was around the same time that DuPont Shanghai wanted to open a flagship store. And it just so happened that their samples are hexagons. So we started to develop this interior, and we kept on with the research we'd done there. We started building these things. This wall's about the length of this room, and there's about 2,000 or 3,000 little bricks, and each one is built together on site. And this was really a demonstration for architects to, now if you go to Mumbai Airport, you'll see similar things around columns. So because we'd experimented with 3D, we knew how to make these things bigger. So this is spectacular when you saw it. And there is no way I could do this in London. It would just be like more than my job's worth, their job's worth. So we had hundreds of guys, nothing is impossible there. It was like, yes, we can do this. We want the challenge. It'll drive us forward, it'll make us better. And that's the kind of adrenaline factor that is incredible. So we started making all of this different sort of vortex. So, you know, I said to them, look, all I'm going to do for your store is I want to do my own exhibition and make it look like it's a Michael Young exhibition. So we started doing we did a train here, tables, we did little kitchen units, a shower unit, all to show the purpose and the use of DuPont. These sort of projects come along once in a lifetime because it was just a bizarre experience to experiment. But all of them had a great deal of relevance. What it did was lead on to doing this, because they said to me, if you want to have some fun, this is clearly just a bit of fun, okay? But it was just for the showroom. We made a sort of fake electrical bike. They made that in 48 hours. It was full size. They worked overnight, just all of these people building different parts. And in the morning came this thing. We're like, whoa! You can't really see it here, but what we then started doing, they built a CNC machine to make all of those things you saw before that, like a 5-axis CNC machine. So you can literally make any sort of object you want. And I used the CNC machine on the surfacing. You can see the sort of hex pattern that came from the telephone. And what that really led, so what I suppose I'm trying to demonstrate is how it's led me forward. Now, this was in Melbourne not so long ago, actually. It was just a little test piece. I've got collectors who collect my work in the United States, so this is actually this big, but we've just finished making the full blocks. Literally, the aluminium comes from a block as big as this, and then it's CNC'd down into this shape. And I just want to show you here, this is how detailed they do this, and this is, each little tile is hand polished, so between the machine age and the ability to do handcraft, you know, we have a completely new object exists. So, you know, for me, as I was saying, everything in life, the way I work, is an accident. It just sort of, it comes all by chance. So, a quick tribute to Australia and In Style. I hope you can see the influence of all the work. So I collaborate with quite a few Australian companies, and this is a fabric for In Style, which has been launched and selling really well now. Yes, you can see that's not my chair there, but it's nice the way we've managed to spread out this experimentation, and now it starts to come into different materials from 3D to 2D, and there's still a sort of visual language going on. So we now get to this. So what my first thing I did in life was make things for a living, just in a workshop. I used to drive people crazy because I was carving bits of foam on clay lathes, dust in the air. So when the company called Lasvit saw what I was doing with all of the metalwork, they said, can you come to Novi Bor in Czech Republic and start trying to make these things in glass? So this place is a crazy place. It's like a circus act. You go to a big room with a furnace. There's, you know, all the guys are drinking beer from 6 o'clock in the morning. They're blowing glass. They've got dreadlocks and tattoos. It's just like you think you've arrived in some kind of hell. And then they're just all blowing these things. And so we developed this project where we wanted to make one mold and then make tables. So what we did, this is actually a photograph. It's not a rendering. So we started to take the 3D work we'd done into a new dimension by building these structures and making tables. So this is just the start of a whole range of stuff we're doing. And what they did, they gave us the opportunity to develop these ideas even further. So this is something we launched in Milan. You can see, this is a top view of an object. You can see that pattern of hexagons, and what we've done is extract them into 3 dimensions. This is incredibly, so we made a glass vase and put them in between this sort of honeycomb mesh. So this is the sculpture that came from this, which is, you know, a big thing. There's 370 lights in there. It takes a few days to build. So it really leads us into a new direction of how to create objects for markets. And you can see that's sort of close up. When we work these things out, these are the sort of drawings we have to do because there's 360 lights on here, and for every 8 lights you're going to have a separate electrical cable. So this is how we actually have to calculate the drawings for which lights are connected to which electrical source. And I guess that's great because we had 2 very powerful forces. We had the power of these Czechoslovakian glassblowers and technology coming together, and find ourselves with this sort of new world object. So, you know, I find chairs for me are pretty difficult things to design. There's no reason to design a chair. There's so many of them. It was only when my wife was designing a restaurant, she asked me to design a chair, and you know, when your wife asks you to do something, you've got to do it, and it's got to be good. And I was like, oh no, what should I do? So anyway, I actually made the effort to do some work. I stayed up all night and designed this chair. And I went to my aluminium factory and said, can you make this kind of chair? It's got to be classic, but a new interpretation. So this was really, you know, I hope this sort of talk's making sense. I could just be blabbing on here, but that's me. I blab on. I could blab on for quite a few days, really. So this really, though, I put this here because it was a sort of landmark victory. Because what happened after this chair was that another new company was started. Basically, my friend was the buyer at Lane Crawford. He saw this chair and said, Michael, you can set a company up for this chair. And it really told the story of this new generation. And you know, the reason the aluminium factory actually came to me, it turned out, was because when the recession came, they didn't actually have control of their destiny. You know, when Sony reduced, you know, 20,000 TV screens a day to, you know, 5,000, they've got to keep thinking. So I went to my factory and I said, look, if you guys can set a company up, you do it. You just give me, you know, a keen interest. And I'll design the stuff. So what we did was, they said, okay, we'll set this thing up. I gave the owner of the factory and his wife one job to do. I said, you name the company so you feel that it's part of you, because if I name it for you, you'll just sit in the background. So they came up with this name, and so this was actually the restaurant my wife designed to use this chair. I just used some paper lights. It's actually a Taiwanese restaurant. It's called the Night Market, and basically it was the reinterpretation of a the Taiwanese night market. It was Jamie Oliver, so to speak. You know, all the recipes were enhanced, and then all the materials were designed, concrete floors, the teal colours, things like that. You know, so that's typical. That's really a collaboration, you could say. But what it ended up doing was creating this company, which basically, I'm not here to give it PR. It's just the story of, you know, my life, so to speak. You know, anyway. So what we did, you know, all of the things we can do in that factory protect us from copying, because we can push the machines to a new level. So I'm just going to run through this. This is, you know, an extruded light we made. So, you know, these guys, they make things for washing machines. So I said, okay, we can make a range of lights. This is one piece of aluminium. And then, so we launched this in Milan. And I'm getting close towards the end, actually, because my time is up. And I don't know whether there's been a point to this talk, or I've made a point. But let's see what happens in the next 5 minutes. But anyway, so this company's gone off like a rocket now, and thanks, you know, we've done some things with InStyle and advertising, and that's helped bring things from the USA, and the whole sort of organic process has been spectacular. This was a new, these guys have a Japanese bread shop in Hong Kong, and they used all of the furniture. So this is really formidable for me. The only thing I have to do is, I guess I design very quickly, so they just sort of, you know, bring me out, say sit down, and then I do my job, and then they go out. So this is a new shelving unit we just launched in Milan, and I couldn't do this without, again, the understanding of geometry. and then a writing desk which we did. And then the good thing about working with someone, I actually realised that collaboration is so intensely important that when I started working with the guy from Lane Crawford, he said, no, Michael, Jasper Conran's the new art director of Conran's shop, everything's going to go seasonal, okay? And I said, what's that? Can we just make it grey or black? He said, no, we're going to do pistachio, we're going to do olive, we're going to do this do. So he's brought an amazing new couture level to the company. But anyway, I'm going to talk about the most important thing that's happened in Australia in the last 50 years, is this. So this is, for me, a dream thing come true. When I was living in Avalon, I built a Mini Moke with a garage, and it's one of my favourite cars. And it just so happened I was buying parts of someone in Australia who happens to be here, and they were remanufacturing this car, and unfortunately it stopped a long time ago when British Leyland went down, but it was really a car that everybody loves. So they made a collaboration with a company to bring it back onto the market. So my job was to keep the integrity of the design, but bring it forward so Mini Moke enthusiasts still had respect for the car. For me, if you change a car like this too much, there's nothing left of it. So I really had to control myself to be really respectful and show the integrity of the car. But you can see we've really cleaned it up. Made it a car that can be sold in Monaco or South Africa. A very general but safe and soft design, and lots of different colours. So for me, this has been really a dream situation to be in, and this will come out on the market. I think the first versions will be in Australia towards the end of the year, and production at the beginning of the year. So the great collaboration between Australia and Asia is really something that I think should be respected. Materials come from Australia, it brings business. It's not, I think there's the Australian market is actually supplying the Chinese factories with money because they import so much fake furniture to this country that it's insane. It's just ridiculous. If Australia actually stopped that and let all of these young guys make furniture for the restaurants, a lot would change. But anyway, I'm not going to go there today because I'll start to go the wrong way. So what is really ironic, and this is the last thing I was going to say, is what's so ironic is that this is a grave I designed for myself for an exhibition in Hong Kong, and I exhibited it in Hong Kong, and I made it on a small island on the coast of China, and I put on here, it's got your name here in the original Macintosh font. So I had this exhibition in Hong Kong, and all the local businessmen actually put their business card in this. So when I left, it was ridiculous. It was a concept, but they used it as a business card holder. The funny thing is, this is actually in my friend's garden in Melbourne right now. So it's just ironic that I'm here doing this talk and my grave's just around the corner. But anyway, I'm just going to leave it there for now. So thanks for listening to me rabbit on. I hope that wasn't too superficial. But day by day, improve. Okay, that's exactly 45 minutes. Thanks.